Welcome to Whittling Chip Part 2. I am Mr. Sean, Bear Den Leader, Pack 495, Renton, Washington. Let's just jump straight into it, guys. First, we want to go over safety. Let's all get up and do the pocket knife pledge, and this is a repeat after me. Repeat after me. I will treat my pocket knife with the respect due a useful tool.
I will treat my pocket knife with respect due a useful tool.
I will always close my pocket knife and put it away when not in use.
I will always close my pocket knife and put it away when not in use.
I will not use my pocket knife when it will injure someone near me.
I will not use my pocket knife when it will injure someone near me.
I promise never to throw my pocket knife for any reason.
I promise never to throw my pocket knife for any reason.
I will use my pocket knife in a safe manner at all
I
times.
will use my pocket knife in a safe manner at all times.
Good job. Now I'm going to briefly go over some more safety rules. A knife is not a toy. Know how to sharpen a knife. A sharp knife is safer than a dull knife. Keep the blade clean. Never carry an open pocket knife. When you're not using your knife, close it and put it in your pocket or put it away in a safe spot. When you're using the cutting blade, do not try to make big shavings or chips. Easy does it. We want flat, small, thin shavings. Make your safety circle, also known as a blood circle. Before you pick up your knife, stretch out your arms and turn all the way around, leaving a few inches at the end for your knife. That will be your safety circle, and it's yours to establish and maintain. If you cannot touch anyone or anyone else within your safety circle, it's safe to use your knife. When using your knife, be sure to watch your surroundings. Other people may not know about your safety circle, and you'll want to be sure that they do not enter your safety circle, also known as the blood circle. We went over even more safety in the last video, so be sure to watch part 1 for a complete list of all the safety rules. The first thing we need to know when we're handling knives is how to hand a knife to someone else. When you hand your knife to another person, the other person must say thank you before you let it go. Also try and make eye contact with the other person when they say thank you to reaffirm the transfer is complete. Once thank you is said, you can let go of the pocket knife. Once it is said, you can let it go. Remember, the knife is always your responsibility. If the other person does not say thank you, hang on to the knife. Don't let them have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will go over opening a pocket knife. Most knives have a small cut in the top of each of the blades, or if it's a single blade, in the top of the blade, to make it easier to open. You can get your fingernail in there and get a good bite on it. Knife in the palm of your hand and grip it on both sides, so when you open the knife, it doesn't touch your hand. Now with the other hand, open the blade away from you, and so that the edge is away from you and that the point is away from you. Make sure the blade is fully open. This happens to be a locking style blade, so it's open and locked. It's not loose or damaged, and the knife is ready to be used. Most knives make a click or a lock into place. Most knives that don't have a lock, you'll feel it. There'll be a definite spot where the knife is open. That's when you know the knife is fully open. So you would never want to sling or pop the blade open. That's dangerous. If you're slinging the blade open, you could end up throwing the knife. And we never throw knives. Now I can't tell you which hand to use, but I'm right-handed. So I put the knife in my left hand when opening it, because my right hand is more dexterous. My left hand will hold it, my right hand will open it, and then I'll switch it to my right hand to use it. Always keep the edge and the point away from you. Your knife is open. Now's a good time to inspect it. Make sure it's fully open, locked into place, it's not loose, and it's clean. If the blade is damaged or loose, don't use the knife. Fold it back up, find a different knife. Just don't use that knife. If it is dirty or wet, clean it. When cleaning your blade, take a towel or a cloth of some sort and wipe down from the back of the knife to the front of the. That way, the motion you're creating isn't a slicing motion, so you don't cut yourself or the towel or cloth that you're cutting with. So always start at the back of the knife, the side that's not sharp. Never take the knife to clean it to your pant leg. I know how your jeans might seem like a good thing to clean a knife on, but it's not. You could very easily cut yourself doing that. Always use a rag or a cloth. Now let's go over closing the knife. Now that we've learned how to open it, we've inspected it and used the knife, it's time to close it to put it away. So this particular knife has a lock. The lock on this knife is a button. So if your knife has a lock, you'll want to practice unlocking the blade. So what you do is you put it in the palm of your hand. In this knife, I push down, and then you always use the palm of your hand. Okay. Unlock your blade, and then once your blade is in an unlocked position, use the palm of your hand to close the blade. You notice none of my fingers were in the way. Closing the blade is an easy way to get yourself cut. And remember, before you close it is really the best time to clean it. That way, the next time you use it, it's clean and ready for use. So now let's talk about getting cut. I hope you never do get cut, but if you do, there's a few things you should do. First thing you do is don't panic. You cut yourself with your knife, there's going to be a little bit of blood, and that is what it is. The next thing I'd like you to do is tell an adult. They can help you. Don't worry, it's okay. It's better to tell them than to not. Next, we'll clean and dry the wound. Then we'll put some antibiotic first aid cream on there so it doesn't get infected. And then we'll wrap the cut with a Band-Aid. And then you're off again. Cuts happen, and I truly hope that you don't get cut, but if you do, those are the things you need to do to take care of it. The next thing to do after you get cut is to try and understand what you did that got yourself cut. Were you handling the knife improperly? Were you making a cut and your finger got in the way? Were you closing the knife and your finger was in the way? Try and identify the problem. That way, the next time you'll remember what happened and you won't do it again. So you're learning from the accident. And that would be probably the most important part of the whole thing. So let's talk about sharpening the knives. Most knives come nice and sharp, especially when they're brand new. They're brand new, they're perfect, they're sharp, they're ready to go. You do not need to sharpen your brand new knife. If used properly, it should stay sharp for quite some time. But if, let's say you're whittling something and you notice that you're having to push through it a little harder. It seems like your knife could be a little sharper. Well, now's the time to get out the sharpener and make your knife sharp again. There are many ways to sharpen a knife, but I recommend in the beginning a sharpener with preset stones in it. We use the one with the little X pattern in it, like this one. This kind of sharpener is easy to use. The angles are set and you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do with this type of sharpener is draw your knife through it straight up and down as if you were slicing. When using this type of sharpener, just like any other type of sharpener, it's not necessary to push down real hard on it. All you have to do is guide the knife through this kind of sharpener and it'll hone the blade for you. It'll only take about 5 or 6 passes, and then you can test it out on whatever you were carving. If it doesn't seem quite as sharp as you want it, to pass it through there another few times. These type of sharpeners have two sides. One is a little more coarse, so it'll correct some unevenness in the blade, and the other one's a more fine, so it'll make it sharper and more true. As you learn more about knives, you'll find there are many different types of sharpeners out there, and I welcome you to explore the different types of sharpeners. Just keep in mind they all have one thing in common. They all just sharpen your knife, and they all have varying degrees of skill that are required to operate them. The one we're showing you today is a very basic one, and I recommend you start there. So I just want to say great job listening and paying attention. I recommend you watch through this again and practice. Practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the more comfortable you're going to feel being around knives, opening and closing and using them. Be sure that when you do practice with your knife, that a trusted adult is nearby and that they know you're using your knife. I know some of this can be a little bit frustrating in the beginning, and if you're feeling a little frustrated, just slow it down. Trust your adult. Practice. Knives aren't about speed. They're about following the rules, maintaining safety, and using the tool for what it's meant for. So now that we know how to safely handle our knives, let's use them. Let's make some basic carvings. And we're going to start today with the plastic butter knife, disposable knife, one that won't readily cut you, and a bar of soap. So the objective when doing this is not to just take huge chunks out of the soap, it's to take small shavings off of it. Whittling isn't about speed, it's about taking your time and making your cuts properly. If you take really big chunks, one thing that can happen is, well, you could cut yourself. But another thing that could happen is you could damage the project you're working on to where it's not going to turn out like you want it to. So go ahead, get your plastic butter knife and your bar of soap and establish your safety or blood circle. Okay, so it's very important when you're carving or whittling that what you're doing with the knife is in front of your fingers. So you always want to be behind the knife, all parts of your body. So here on the table, it's easy to isolate the rest of my body from what I'm doing. If you're doing it out on a bucket or out on the lawn, be sure that your legs are not underneath the knife. So you would want to sit with the work in between you. So the work's always out here. Okay? So with your plastic butter knife, practice just taking really small amounts of soap off of here and how much pressure is required to do that. Now go ahead and just keep doing that and get a good feel for it. You notice I'm going nice and slow, and I'm really just taking off very little soap. I'm going to insert a video here of Colin doing the same thing. Now that we've got a good feel for that, if you have your own pocket knife already, why don't you go ahead and practice with that, being sure that you establish your safety circle, that you open the knife properly, and that when you're taking carvings from the soap, you're doing it with very, very meaningful and very light strokes. So here we have a real knife. I have my hand is at the back of the bar of soap, and this is just our practice bar of soap. Okay, so it doesn't matter, where you cut on it. And to make real thin slices, you just want to pick the blade up off the edge of the soap a little bit and just slowly move it forward. And see these nice little shavings I'm getting? That's what we want. We're not working the soap too hard here. We're just taking nice clean shavings. And you can practice the pitch of your blade against the bar of soap as to how much soap that's going to take off. And this is just the same with soft woods as well. So continue practicing that. And I recommend you just keep practicing taking these little shavings off. It's actually a lot of fun. And if you make a mistake, it's no big deal. That's why we're practicing on a bar of soap. Mistakes are okay. See? So once again, I'm going to have Mr. Collins show you how he does it. So when you're done practicing carving your soap, before you close your knife, now's a good time to clean it. You've got it dirty with the soap, and before you close the knife, ooh, there's a nice shaving, maybe a little big. Before you close your knife, be sure to clean it. So a couple things to remember with the carving. This isn't a speed contest. We're just taking off little chunks, little slices, nothing too big, okay? And I say practice until this, just keep practicing until this first bar of soap, I don't know, is about a third of the way carved away. More practice, the better. Now, it's real easy at this point in time to get up from the bar of soap and to leave your knife just sitting here. We don't do that. Once you've closed your knife, put it back in your pocket, and then your knife is safe. Remember, you're the one responsible for the knife. So if I were to leave this knife and this bar of soap on the table and walk away, then I have a young daughter here. She could easily come and pick it up and I wouldn't know what she was doing. And that would be my fault, not hers. I'm responsible for the knife. Be sure to put it away in a safe place when you're done. Okay, now that you've practiced with your first bar of soap, it's time to get out your second bar of soap. We're going to actually make a carving on this bar of soap, and this will be for part of the Bare Necessities adventure. But what I have here for my carving is a polar bear. I got this polar bear off the internet, and I'll put the link in the description below, so if you want, you can have your own polar bear. But any small little carving will do just fine. Is you trace with the toothpick your polar bear, anything but your knife. You don't want to do this with your knife. So trace it with a toothpick onto the soap, and you know, make a nice little carving out of it so you know where to cut. Okay. So here we go. So you can see the lines for the polar bear in there, and this will be what you're going to whittle away. So these lines are showing you the trace of the polar bear. Once you have whatever it is you're carving onto your bar of soap, start whittling away. And remember, nice small cuts. We're not looking for real big chunks here. Okay. Whittling isn't always an exact thing. And so it may not be perfect, and that's okay. Practice over time will cure that. You'll learn how to use your knife better and better every time you use it. So that's how we're gonna get the shape onto our bar of soap, and have fun doing that. I'm not gonna sit here and whittle this whole thing out for you on this video, but I think you get the point on how to transfer an object to the bar of soap. So toothpick, a template, and you're set. Now remember, making your carving in your bar of soap is going to take some time. and that's okay. You know, it's a project. We're not here to rush through it. So take your time, make it as nice as you can while practicing how to safely use your knife. So I hope you've had fun carving your bar of soap. The next video, we're going to test your knowledge. This is basically the conclusion of the hands-on portion of the Whittling Chip training. So for the next video, I want you to have a piece of paper and a pen or pencil so you can write down your answers. And then after the next video is released, a short time after that, we'll have a Zoom meeting where we can all go over the answers. Once you've done all this, then you will have earned your Whittling Chip, and you will have done the carving section of the bare necessities. So remember, after you've earned your Whittling Chip, you've earned the trust of the adults, and you've also earned the responsibility of owning a pocket knife. Please take it seriously. Remember, it's not a toy. And if you have any questions, you can always refer back to these videos. And please do. So I'd like to take a moment to make a correction to the last video. In the last video, I said that our scouts are only allowed to use blades that lock. It turns out that this is not our pack's policy. There are some packs out there who do enforce that policy, but ours do not. So our scouts can use 3 different types of knives that I'm aware of. That would be a multi-tool knife, where the knife has many different things. This one has like a fingernail file on it. It has a screwdriver in it, so you could technically use this knife as a screwdriver, but only as long as you're using the actual screwdriver for that, not the knife blade itself. They may use a jackknife. This one happens to lock, but if it didn't have a lock on it, that would be okay. So a knife like that. And a pen knife. So this is a 3-bladed pen knife, and I really like these knives. They come really sharp, and they're nice to hold. They're just the right size for your hand. So they may also use these. Now remember, with the pen knives, it's easy to cut yourself if you get your fingers in there, as with any knife. But if these pen knives, once you close them, they're gonna go to close. The one thing I would like to say about a non-locking blade is when you are cutting with it, do not put your finger on the back of the blade and push. Like I was saying before, once these knives get to closing, they hurry up and close. So that knife basically closed on its own. And when you're cutting on something and you're pushing on the back of the blade, you could accidentally close the knife unintentionally, resulting in a cut. So practice being careful, practice being safe. The one knife that I'm gonna say that the Cubs shouldn't use, and that I wouldn't want to see them use, is a fixed blade knife, even in a sheath. They can't practice safe opening with it or safe closing with it, and it's just not a really good knife for a Cub Scout. So a fixed blade knife should probably not be used. But I just wanted to make a correction to the last video. That opens up a whole world of knives to you, which I'm excited about. I really do like the Swiss multi-tool knives. I think they're a great thing for the Cub Scouts. And on the Scout Shop, they have a Cub Scout themed Swiss Army knife for sale. So that concludes our pocket knife safety training. I'm really glad you watched this, and I really hope you watch it more than one time. In fact, I really think you should. I'll, in the description below, include links to the polar bear tracing, to some knife safety stuff. I'll include some links on where you can get some knives online, and some other information that might be useful to you. The next video, like I said before, is the quiz video, so I'll see you then. But until then, I wish you health and happiness and safe whittling. Bye.